What is up, guys? Welcome to a new video. So today we're checking out the changes coming up, but what they actually mean for each role. So like who is going to be worse, who is going to be better, and who you might want to watch out for. I'm going to put timestamps down below for each role if you want to skip, but we'll start with the mid lane and go on to AD carry afterwards, which are the two biggest roles getting changes. And obviously we do this for every single patch, so if you enjoy the video, make sure you subscribe and stick around. So mid lane, Corki nerfs are the first one. This is the biggest mid lane change in my opinion. The rockets are getting targeted big time. So the base damage is down 25 to 35, the AP ratio is down, and also the AD ratio is down by 25%. The thing is though, the big one damage is actually now 100% increased damage instead of 50% increased. So basically this means the missile spam hurts a bit less now. So the obnoxious like missile after missile isn't going to be as deadly, but the big one is still going to really hurt. So there's just more pressure to dodge and hit that one. Honestly, I think this might make it a little bit easier to play against him, so you can survive the poke normally and then you just kind of flash or dodge the big one, and that's a lot of his damage gone. He's still going to be pretty decent, but the Corki rampage and solo queue isn't going to be as bad anymore. At least the poke shouldn't suck as much ass to play against anymore. Now I kind of goofed on this one with the 7.4 preview video for Rise, but the extra damage bonus for his Q that his E gives him has been reduced by 20% late game. Even though it doesn't look like much because it's his E, the Q is his main damage source, right? That's spell crit, and now it's going to do 20% less, so that's a pretty decent chunk down. Honestly, his damage is still nuts, but whenever you take that much away from someone's main damage source, they're bound to suffer for it. He is so good at higher ranks, that's definitely deserved, but it's going to suck at lower ones where I don't think he's as destructive right now anyway. It's probably more aimed at the LCS and solo queue. It's just one of those changes that is aimed at the pro players because he is top tier. Now those are the only two champion changes, but Yumu's is getting a nerf to it, 5 lethality down to 15 now. It's the same lethality as Duskblade and Edge of Night, so it's still very strong, but we're going to see those two more common now as a first item along with Ghostblade. It's not going to kill lethality builds at all. If anything, it's going to give us a bit more diversity, but this next change is actually going to hurt as well. So there are a lot of mastery changes aimed at damage sources. Basically, they buffed the percentage damage gain in masteries in season 7, and now they're lowering them all. Bounty Hunter, Double-Edged Sword, Battle Trance, and Ferocity are all being lowered, so that's a few percentage off of everyone's starting damage. It's more the precision though for assassins, so if you're going down for the Thunderlords, it's less magic pen, it's less magic pen per level, and less lethality gained from it now. It's only 2.5 lethality down, but combined with the 5 you're missing from Yumu's and the percentage damage you're losing as well, that might end up actually hurting altogether. So what does it actually mean? Corki and Rise will be weaker, and so will lethality assassins a little bit. Lethality will still be good though, they just won't be as strong in the early stages of the game, which I think is actually a good thing, to be honest. The meta will probably stay roughly the same because these nerfs affect everybody across the board. They don't just affect AD or AP casters. It will hit champions who want to snowball early harder though, so before they've really bought any items, they still want to do damage that is a bit tougher. Now Talon, Quinn, Jace, and stuff like that will take a little bit more of a hit. I'd actually keep my eye on Anivia and Swain this patch though. These guys are decently tanky, they have a lot of close-up damage, which I think the meta really suits right now. Both are rising stars as well at the moment. So let's move on to the AD carry role, which is actually getting some of the biggest changes at the moment, and I think overall it's a good change for ADs. So first up, there are two big changes to Fervor and Warlords. They're buffing one and then nerfing the other. Fervor stack duration is going to be up to 8 seconds now from 6, so what it was last season actually, and Warlord lifesteal is going to be down to 15% from 20%. The Fervor stack duration is actually super good for any champion that wants to use this, especially in the lane phase, to be honest. There's more time to stack it out. Basically, you have 8 seconds now between an auto attack to keep the stack going. It means you can go in, you can attack the enemy champion, get a few Fervor stacks, you can come back out again, and then like 7 seconds later, you can go and hit them again. And you actually add to the original stack of Fervor you had. This is one of the masteries that actually kind of sucks at the start of a trade, but it's awesome once it's stacked up. So like Lucian, Sivir, and I think actually Varus might get buffs from this. Honestly though, any auto-attacking champion with some ability damage as well is going to benefit from this in my opinion. It's also any auto champion in general, like so Fiora and Kled are going to be even better, but I'm going to leave them to their top lane section. It is also just in comparison to Warlords, which will be weaker, so it hurts in two places, right? The lane phase, you cannot heal up as much as easily, so it's not as big of a safety net when you screw up. Late game as well, 5% makes a bigger difference when you're autoing for 1000 damage instead of 100. Basically, it nerfs auto-attacking champions who build triple crit. It makes the lane phase even harder as well. Now, overall, we might see more Fervor now if you use abilities for damage later as well as auto attacks. So, for example, Caitlyn, who stops using Q because autos do more damage, Fervor is not getting the full benefit. Now, let's look at the Yumu's though and what it means for lethality AD carries, because this basically just means early game will not be as bad against a Ghostblade Rush champion. We're going to see more Duskblade and Edge of Night first as well instead probably, but for AD carries though, it's not that bad to be honest. That's kind of because of this next change to Last Whisper. The AD is getting reduced, but the arm pen increase, the path has been changed a little bit easier to buy. Now, this is so good for AD carries and other AD champions. Holy crap. you can literally deviate your build, spend 1300 gold, and suddenly you have an answer to tanks, which is nuts. It also makes the 30 AD carries even stronger. This is something most people are forgetting actually, but overall they're getting a buff this patch. Lethality is flat arm pen, okay? Look at it really simply, like a very simple overview. That means if they have 50 armor and you have 25 lethality, you're cutting their armor in half. That's great versus champions who do not build armor, right? That's almost 50% gone, but against a tank who has 200 armor, 25 off of it doesn't really do anything. That was lethality's biggest problem. Tanks or against any armor items, they just had too much armor. Lethality didn't really make as much difference, but now Last Whisper is a 1300 gold fix on top of lethality to cover their big weakness. What I'm trying to say is they're good against champions who don't build armor already, but then if a big tank came along, they were going to struggle. Now they spend 1300 gold and suddenly they can deal with him as well. We're going to see a big change here. When a tank is fed, AD carries have a very good answer now. Not a perfect answer, but a quick fix to make sure they aren't useless. Lord Dominic's Regards is a counter nerf, I think, to balance out Last Whisper a little bit. It now gives 1.5% bonus damage per 100 health difference up to 1000 health. It used to be 50 up to 500. So basically it means that someone has to have double the health above yours now that they used to for the maximum bonus damage. Against tanks, this doesn't really matter. Against bruisers who might not have much more health than you, it won't be doing quite as much damage. So there are actually some gen nerfs as well. The R slow duration has been lowered from 0.75 to 0.5. I've said this before when we looked at it, but there are two problems. First one is hitting more shots after the first is harder now. So there isn't as much slow. It's harder to hit the second shot after you've hit the first. If you're hitting all four to slow and let your team catch up as well, that's a second less total, which is actually a lot of time to lose on a slow overall. Basically, this won't kill Jhin or anything like that, but it will mess with his utility side and make him weaker at starting fights. So it's one of those indirect nerfs which might hurt but not be very obvious. So basically, overall, Fervor is better, Warlords is worse, right? Last Whisper gives us a better and cheaper answer to tanks. Lethality 80 carries, I think, are probably actually getting a buff this patch, ironically, even with the Yuum's nerf. So Jhin, Varus, Misfortune are still going to be dumpstering everybody. Varus might actually swap to using Fervor now as well. I definitely am going to try this myself. I think it will be really good because you auto attack first and then your Q is going to do more damage. Lucian and Sivir will be better as well with the further changes, but Caitlyn, Jinx, Ashe, and Vayne are probably slightly weaker. Basically, because of the Warlords nerf, they're going to be weaker in the lane phase. They can't heal back up as much, but they at least have the Last Whisper change to deal with tanks. Now let's move on to the top lane. So the Cho'Gath kind of mini rework, his ultimate basically, there's no cap on the stacks anymore. They don't get removed either if you die, and it deals bonus damage based on your bonus health. The main things though with this entire thing is you get 5 stacks from non-champions now. The rest are going to be from champions. You don't lose stacks when you die, which is massive. The AP ratio is still there actually, but lowered by 20%, but we now have a 10% bonus HP ratio on the damage. The bonus HP per stack is 140 now instead of 180. So this really turns Cho'Gath into Mundo on steroids, I think. Actually, he gets health from his ultimate, right? He gains health from items, he gains damage from health. You build full tank, you have a knockup, you have sustain, a silence, and you deal lots of damage. And as if that wasn't bad enough, by the way, the ultimate damage is still true damage. So that is like a 650 base damage plus 50% AP ratio plus 10% bonus HP. You're getting close to 1000 true damage by pressing R now. I honestly think Cho'Gath is going to come back now full tank, or maybe even buying a Titanic Hydra. Honestly, like, he's going to be so big, so tanky, and do a lot of damage. He still has that kind of same issue where if you miss your Q and your W, you're pretty useless in a team fight, but Flash R is never going to fail you. Now there are some Maokai nerfs as well. The key mana cost is up 20 rank 5, and your E landing damage has actually been completely removed. This hurts his trading and wave clear the most actually. It's going to affect his lane phase more than anything else. So his E change doesn't even really matter, to be honest. You max it last, it's 40 damage rank 1, that will not really be missed. It might make a difference in like a really few amount of cases, but actually the Q mana cost is going to be bigger. Like using that 5 times costs you 100 more mana than it did before, and that's the cost of 2 of the old Qs. Basically you can use it 5 times when you could have used it 7 before. That is why it makes a difference in the lane phase. You have 2 less Qs, each deals 250 damage, that's 500 less damage from poke. It's kind of a sad thing because I think this would have been really good on Maokai actually. I'm putting this with the top lane, so it will help supports a little bit, but Knight's Vow is getting a change. The armor has been doubled to 40, and the passive armor when you're near your partner has been halved. So it's the same overall, but you get like 40 armor from the item now when you're alone, which makes it a lot better on full tanks top lane who don't have a lot of damage. Cho'Gath, Nautilus, Maokai as well might actually start building this if you're playing to protect the AD carry. I'm going to include Black Cleaver here as well, so this is changed to be more attractive to bruisers than like AD carries and stuff like that. There's 100 more health, there's 10 less AD, but it's 100 gold cheaper. It might passively buff champions like Darius maybe, to be honest, like anyone who wants to be a little bit tankier rather than burst people. Actually Garen as well. So what does this mean for top lane though? So Cho'Gath will probably be meta again, Maokai will be weaker in lane, and Fiora is going to to be so OP. Fiora is really good versus tanks. Like, she's already really good against Maokai. That'll be easier now. Fervor as well makes her even better than she was before. Fiora wants to dive in and out of fights, right? Take very short and consistent trades, basically. 8 seconds on Fervor makes it really easy to keep that stack now. I would watch out for Kled as well, though, because in my opinion will be better this patch with the Fervor buffs and Black Cleaver costing less as well. Nautilus will take Maokai's place as the premier tank now. Quinn and Talon will still be stupidly strong with lethality even after the Ghostbane nerfs, I reckon, because they just roam so efficiently. Now, there actually aren't really any major jungle or support changes except for the indirect ones we talked about earlier. Like, junglers like Kha'Zix and Rengar will get hit with the mastery changes and Yumu's, but they don't rush Ghostblade, so they won't feel it as much in my opinion. I think really Vi and Warwick will be really good this patch, like kind of rise up a little bit more. You should watch out for them quietly carrying a lot of games, as well as Jack's jungle. Jack's jungle is something that comes in and out of the meta a little bit, but you might benefit from the further changes and lethality not being as strong as well. The only support change is to Bard's move speed from CHAMPS. Night Vow doesn't change a ton because the support would normally be near the AD anyway, even though it is actually better overall. I would actually keep my eye on Sona. She's making a rise up right now. She's very, very good at lower ranks, especially actually. If you play support at like bronze, silver, and gold, she is almost free low. I'd expect it to mostly stay the same though. We'd see a lot of Zyra, a lot of Malzahar, Blitzcrank, Janna, and probably Soraka. There are a lot of changes this patch actually, so I wanted to kind of keep it in detail still, but not make the video too long. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you did. Thank you for watching, but for now, let's go to the robots.